What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Alex. Welcome to Alex Sports Talk and Bets. And we got to talk about this Jeff Teague thing because, look, I know, to even myself, I get tired of complaining about it, but athletes today really get on my nerves because they're chatty patties, man. Y'all some chatty patties. In the words of my man Dame Dash, some chatty patties tell everything. Good Lord, y'all gossip. Y'all try to spill tea like women. Too much. And I blame it on podcasts and internet culture. Because all the athletes want to have a podcast and want to have a show and do interviews and give their opinion. Listen, give your opinion when you're retired. When you're playing, focus on playing. All right? Because there's just too many scenarios for you to say or do something dumb when you have a show while you're still playing. That's the reality of the situation, right? Now, going back to Jeff Teague, obviously Jeff Teague is retired. He's no longer in the league. But Jeff Teague talks too damn much. He made a statement recently, which I'm sure you guys have all heard, where he basically made a claim that LeBron James was on HGH. The quote was basically that he was on steroids for real. They started testing for HGH, and he had to sit out. He said his back was hurting, and he sat out for 3 weeks, then came back skinny. Now, here's my thing. Number one, when was LeBron ever skinny? The skinniest you probably seen LeBron was when he was a rookie, and even then, for a freshly 18-year-old kid, he was pretty stacked. So I don't really when was LeBron skinny? But that's neither here nor there, and I digress. Let's just say that this story is true, because I'll be honest with you guys. I've been hearing rumors about LeBron being on HGH since I was in like high school, and at that point, that was over a decade ago, right? That was almost exactly a decade ago. So we used to make jokes. Me and my boys used to make jokes and call him the HGH because he never got hurt. We used to say it's because of HGH, right? But either way, my thing is this. If you're Jeff Teague, why are you putting out this information? When you're in the NBA, it's the same thing as being in the NFL, NHL, MLB, WNBA. Certain things are expected of you, right? You're supposed to be a competitor. You're supposed to want to be the best, do the best you can, all that jazz, right? But more important than all of that, you're supposed to have a fraternity, all right? Or a sorority if you're women, I guess you could call it. But either way, and what that means is it's a brotherhood, right? So you're all in the same league. You're not supposed to snitch on each other, right? It's supposed to be like the streets in the NFL, the NBA, and the MLB, right? And the NHL and stuff. In the sense of stop snitching. So even if it was true that LeBron was on HGH, why would you, as Jeff Teague, say this when you guys were in the same fraternity? Chances are, if LeBron was on HGH, you think he was the only one on HGH? Certain things are supposed to just go unsaid. You know what this reminded me of? This reminded me of when Kobe got caught banging that white girl in the booty hole, and she tried to say he raped her, and that whole situation was going on. This reminds me of that because one of the first things Kobe did was bring up Shaq. Well, Shaq does it too. Everybody does it. Why would you bring up Shaq? You knew that man was married at the time, and Shaq didn't get caught. You got caught. And that's what really started their whole beef and ultimately broke up that team and everything that happened from there, because it's just certain stuff that you're just not supposed to do. You're not supposed to do it. Like, there was also rumors that Jordan's father got killed. I think everyone's heard this rumor, that Jordan's father got killed because of his gambling problem, and he owed the debt. Whether that's true or not, anyone from the league who says it, this is another angle of you guys got to think about. Anyone from the league who was to say, yeah, that's true, Jordan's father did get killed because he had gambling debt, even if Jordan comes out and says it's not true, even if the guy who made the allegation comes out and says it's not true, no one's going to believe it. Like, if Kobe says Shaq's cheating, no one's going to believe Shaq's not cheating. There's nothing Shaq can say that's going to make anyone believe he's not cheating, because Kobe's on the same team and Kobe said it. So this is the issue, because now people want to say, well, Jeff Teague, he apologized and said he was just joking. First of all, why would you even joke like that? That doesn't even make sense. If you believe, honestly, that Jeff Teague was joking about that, I highly question your intelligence. Jeff Teague wasn't joking at all. What happened is the Men in Black put up on him, and LeBron James made that Illuminati on your mind, soul, and your body call, right? He called them folks. He cool with Jay-Z and Beyonce and all them. So they pulled up on him, and they was like, hey, man, you're going to have to make this disappear. You know what I'm saying? That's what happened. The league, Adam Silver, all of them. Adam Silver is a robot. So, he malfunctioned, pulled up on him, hey, man, you better make this disappear. That's what happened. No one believes that this was a joke. Like, what? The context wasn't even funny. This was not a joke. He was dead serious. He was dead serious. And my thing is, why would you say this? Again, Jerry Rice used Stickum. No one knew Jerry Rice used Stickum. No one on the San Francisco 49ers snitched on Jerry Rice. This is what makes it even worse. Jeff Teague allegedly came to this conclusion while he was playing with LeBron. So you're telling on your teammate. So now you're going even deeper than the fraternity and the brotherhood of the league. You're telling on your teammate. Again, when Jerry Rice was using Stickum, no one knew. Jerry Rice accidentally slipped up, and told on himself, talking too much, and that's how everyone found out Jerry Rice was using Stickum. No one in San Francisco told that Jerry Rice was using Stickum. Because one, it was helping them win, and two, he's on their team. So why would you do that? And here's the thing. I keep saying, why would you do that? But I really know why you would do that. And this is why I don't believe athletes should really be. I'm okay with it when you're retired, but I still think you have to be careful. Like, if you're an athlete, you should be, if you're going to commentate on sports and stuff, I really think you should do it from a sportscaster perspective. So if you can't get on the network, then you want to do something like Pat McAfee, where you're just kind of hosting your own network and you're just basically reviewing the games, bringing other athletes on and stuff like that. The problem with Jeff Teague and them, and a lot of these podcasts today, and as a New York Knicks fan, I even worry about this sometimes with Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart's podcast. I remember Lamar Jackson got on Marlon Humphrey about his podcast. Because the problem with these podcasts today, they're not analytical. Right? They're not analytical. A lot of them are just basically like quote-unquote barbershop talk. And that barbershop talk usually reverts into just spilling tea. And the problem is, when instead of just being a news anchor, right? Or being a recap or actual sports analyst or just talking about the games of the week or analyzing the games, when you start to get into the behind the scenes, when you start to get into that first take, undisputed category, now you're starting to get messy. Because when you start to get into that category, now you got to keep yourself in the headlines. And to keep yourself in the headlines, you got to be messy. The sports world, sports journalism has become about being messy. And it was like that kind of before, but it's at like an all-time high now. So you want to stay in the algorithm, you want to get clicks, so you want to say something that's going to make the internet go crazy. What's going to make the internet go crazy? Saying arguably the greatest player of all time. I don't think LeBron is the greatest player of all time. Look, I'm not even a major LeBron fan like that. And I still think this is corny. Everyone who knows me knows I'm not a big LeBron fan like that. So for me to tell you that you're corny and you're dead wrong, that means a lot. But either way, regardless of the fact that I'm not a fan of him like that, I'm a fan of the game of basketball. LeBron James is by easily one of the greatest players to ever play the game. Where you're going to put him, you put him where you want to put him, but he is. So when you say, as a former teammate, that one of the greatest players who has ever played the game, which one of his biggest strengths being he's never even missed a season. He's never really sustained a major injury. And you talk about him being on HGH. You talk about him being on steroids. You talk about a tarnishment to his legacy. That's one of the biggest tarnishments to his legacy you could give. You saying he on HGH, so people are like, is that the reason he never got hurt? People are like, is that the reason he was such an athletic freak? Because he was on HGH? Then you're opening all these rabbit holes. LeBron's already one of the most hated athletes ever because he just happened to be one of the greatest in the generation full of haters. And you decide to add on to that. It's like I said, man, their whole podcast, I just don't like Teague's whole podcast. It's very gossip blogging. He's just going to sit around, we're going to talk crap instead of just analyzing the game. And people will say stuff like, oh, well, they played in the NBA, so that gives them the right to talk like that. But to me, you playing in the NBA is all the more reason you shouldn't talk like that. It's all the more reason you should just focus on analyzing the game. Get out of the T. That was my problem with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Again, this is a big problem with modern athletes. Jaden Reed goes on there, and when Jalen Reed goes on there, he immediately wants to talk about Romeo Dobbs. Oh, Romeo Dobbs got suspended. I heard he's having problems in the locker room. And, what's going on over there? So Jalen Reed, as he should, basically goes, we good. Ain't nothing going on over here. He was just going through some things. I don't know what y'all got going on in Green Bay. I can't stand Amon-Ra, man. He gets on my nerves. It's Cisco looking stuff. I don't know what y'all got going on in Green Bay. We don't have those problems in Detroit. We don't have those problems. My thing is, you're not talking about the game of football. Let's talk about route concepts. How do you train? Like stuff like that. Even if you wanted to talk about someone's family, and not in a negative way. I'm just saying, how's your wife, how's your kids, blah, blah, blah. How did you decide to purchase your first house? What made you go to Michigan State? So many questions you can ask about the sport. You want to ask this man about gossip and what happened with Romeo Dobbs. None of your business. The only difference is Jeff Teague snitched and Jalen Reed kept it 100 and was basically like, look, I'm not about to talk about team business on your podcast. These guys get on these podcasts. All these athletes are not charismatic. And just because you were good at the game doesn't even really mean you understand the analytical side of it. People get kicked out of the NBA, NFL, all the time for having athleticism with no IQ. No football IQ, no basketball IQ. And then there are some guys who are such great athletes that even though they have no IQ, they can get around it. But when they're done playing the game and you're asking them to analyze it, they have no IQ, so they can't do it. You guys get what I'm saying? So these guys who have no charisma, no IQ, the only way they can get clicks is to be controversial and spill tea. And then it becomes, like I said, like a gossip blog, like a tea channel. It's just ridiculous. No reason for Jeff Teague to have ever said this. Super corny, super lame. Like, stop snitching. Like, you dudes, man. Stop the chatty patty. Listen, stop chatty pattying. We need the athletes to stop chatty pattying, all right? Just play ball and then talk about the game of ball. Don't be a chatty patty. Don't start spilling tea. Don't start spreading rumors and stuff. Draymond Green told me some old cat missed the game because, he thought that me and Jimmy Butler was going to do something. He was scared. Seriously? Not only did he give Jimmy Butler 30 points last year, but it turns out someone in his family was sick. And Draymond Green didn't even retract the statement. And this is what I'm talking about. When you put yourself on social media to build your platform and stay relevant, you often have to say controversial things unless you're just naturally charismatic to carry your show. A lot of these athletes are dumb as a box of rocks, and they are not naturally charismatic enough to carry a show. So they start spilling tea. This is why I don't really like the idea of athletes having podcasts like that. Like, people always ask, why Pat McAfee, just to wrap this up. People will ask, why Pat McAfee's show does so well. Pat McAfee's show does so well because Pat McAfee stays out of tea, for the most part. Aaron Rodgers can sometimes get him caught up. But for the most part, he's a fan of the game. He's a fan of the athletes, even though he used to play. So they come on, they have a good time, it's camaraderie, and they're talking about the game. They're talking about the sport. They're talking about what just happened. And that's why it works out for him. When you do stuff like this, it doesn't work out for you, man. It just doesn't. It doesn't work out for you. Y'all gotta chill, man. We grown men. I'm tired of hearing so much gossip from the athletes. All right, get your balls back. We don't do T channels. Anyway, y'all, that's my thoughts on that. I am Alex, and I am out. Peace.